Hey Muffins, doing another Battle the Tanks. Which one is better, KV-1S versus the KV-2? I've done this before, wanted to do a little bit better with commentary, but shout out to the helpers that helped me put this together. So going into the KV-1S, better maneuverability, better armor, better gun depression. The KV-2, better DPM, and better average damage per shot. So we did two side-by-side games. So I did 2 games in the KV-1S, and then I did 2 games in the KV-2. And we're just going to do some side-by-side comparisons, really in diving in to, in my opinion, which tank is better than the other, which tank might be more fun, and just my overall opinions on these 2 tanks, because I think they both have a different aspect that they bring to the game. And if they were to be fought against each other, in my opinion, which one would win? If both played by experienced players that knew what they were doing. Both tanks, in my opinion, are played with in slightly different ways. They're both heavies, Russian tanks. You definitely have that Russian accuracy, but played with in a little bit of a different way, because as the KV-1S, you want to use that maneuverability to get yourself in a more effective position faster. You have slightly better gun depression, so putting yourself in an area just to use that will also help with you, give you that advantage. Your accuracy is a little bit better, and your reload's a little bit better. So putting yourself in a position to utilize those attributes, only peek out just a little bit of your turret, a little bit of those, not exposing a whole lot of your tank, just coming over hills or around rocks, buildings, making sure that your weak points are very small at all times will make it very difficult for the KV-2 to aim in, because one of the weaknesses of the KV-2 is it has way worse aiming. And it makes it much harder. And so if you can position yourself in utilizing the KV-1S's strengths in those regards, it can actually be a very, very effective and powerful tank. Now, the KV-2 is very strong in different ways, because, as mentioned, the KV-2 has about 300 to 400 more DPM, or damage per minute, than the KV-1S's average damage 122 millimeter 400 damage cannon. And when you look at it, it doesn't have as good of gun depression. It's a little slower. It has much flatter armor, so the armor is not as good. So as the KV-2, you're still wanting to put yourself in a position to utilize the landscape, but more so on flatter ground. And you want to be in an area to be, you want to almost try to finagle your way up and kind of through the map to get close to your targets, but in a way, in a safe manner, now, where you can get behind a building or a rock or some sort to help you with that reload. You don't want to just completely expose yourself, because you can really get yourself in trouble. Even though, just like on that new Bay map where the KV-2 was completely exposed, I was only exposing a little bit of my tank and just peeking over, and it really put the KV-2 in just an absolute bad spot. Now, here, I'm in a really bad spot because I'm very open. I was trying to kind of rub back and forth along the side to throw off his aiming, but in a situation where you're just purely going off DPM, the KV-2 would win, hands down. If the KV-2 is able to penetrate every single one of those shots, the KV-2 would win. But it's a matter of being able to position yourself, maybe having a little bit of RNG on your side, just because the accuracy is so bad. But if you're able to get in that DPM exchange, that's where the KV-2 can shine. So here, I'm now the KV-2, and once again, trying to be on a little bit flatter ground, see him, unfortunately bounce, and where my reload is slower, this isn't good. But it's in a way kind of smart for him to push, in a way, using that adrenaline to try to help his reload as much as he can. But now, if I can get my shots off, this is where the KV-1S can be put in a really bad situation. So I'm able to get one shot off. He's able to get a shot off on me. And you can see I can't really angle my armor. Even from his view, I don't really have a chance of blocking much of his shots. But as mentioned, because my DPM is so much greater in that position, and if I can pen those shots, it was actually putting the KV-2 in that position at a much greater advantage. So going into one other replay here, once again, KV-2, trying to put myself on flatter ground, staying close to buildings. Now when you're playing the KV-2, I try to stay, even with the KV-1S, because you do have a long reload, I try to stay with my teammates. I try to use them as protection while I'm reloading, along with that cover as well. Now, one other thing I have noticed when we were doing these comparisons in these battles is the KV-1S kept constantly detecting me before the KV-2 would detect the KV-1S. So now in this situation, the KV-1S should have been doing a little bit more side scraping. Honestly, great player, awesome, did a great job, but you don't want to expose your weak points to a KV-2. In a scenario with using the KV-1S, you want to minimize those weak parts as much as possible, even when fighting any other tank. So in a scenario where we both kind of know where we are, peeking out at a side scraping angle is going to give you much more of that advantage. So here, that definitely was unfortunate. And even with the KV-2, what I do, even with the KV-1S, is when I'm loaded, I'll sit there for a while to let my aimer zoom in, and then just as it zoomed in, I'll peek out a little bit earlier or just a little bit afterwards, so it doesn't unaim, I guess, too much, and then be able to take that shot to help my accuracy. So in comparison, I think the KV-1S is a better tank, honestly, in my opinion, just given the fact it has all these other attributes that if you can utilize its positioning better, you can be much more effective. The KV-2 wins the award for most fun, and if you can still put it in those positions to utilize its DPM and average damage per shot, it can be great, but in my opinion, it's much harder to maximize those strengths. So anyway, my opinion on the two tanks. Let me know your thoughts on which one you think is better based on this 1v1 comparison and Battle the Tanks episode. This is the Muffin here. Stay cool and keep tanking.